Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. K, and here is Dr. J, and we want to explain some of the reasons for this Chapter 2 in our course where we're teaching you how to keep control of things. Both of us have taught this course for several times now, and one thing we notice is that the students start doing the work and then lose their work. Well, this is really not a good way to perform because in some sense what we're doing here is creating little computer programs. And we create them in a small iterative fashion until we end up with a, shall we say, an acceptable product that tells a story about the problem or research question we are trying to address. So, Dr. J?
Okay, well, yeah, typically when you're working a problem, it's not a single effort. You don't get it done in one shot. And so what we do is work at this thing somewhat iteratively. You can liken it to putting together a building. Maybe build a foundation, then a frame, and then the rest of the walls, and then you do the finishing work on it. And then the finished product, of course, is what you'll want to turn in. So, and the issue we've had that we all use computers in the course, the classrooms, and then inadvertently, instead of saving our work on a USB that we have, maybe we save it on that computer and then go home and try to work it. We don't have it there. So what we're trying to do now is look at a way to use Git control to control versions and always find not only the version we're currently working on, but also intermediate versions. So if something worked, you make some changes, it doesn't fix it, then we have a way to get back to the original problem.
So what we're going to teach is a two-level approach. One thing in the program structure, we're going to put all our work in something called an RStudio project. That kind of, I liken it to teaching a child to keep track of his stuff. If he's got his own bedroom, you want to make sure he puts all his stuff in his bedroom instead of leaving his mittens in kindergarten and scattering things around the neighborhood. RStudio projects gives you that capability. Everything you save, if you're in an RStudio project, is in the RStudio project folder. So we're going to require all the work, at least in our classes, to be done under the auspices of an RStudio project. But there's more to it than that. You may know your socks are somewhere in your room, but you don't know what drawer you put them in. So there's another level of this. And Dr. J?
Well, what we'll be doing in the other levels, we'll be managing that with a process called Git. You probably have heard of Git or GitHub. You've seen that as on the internet. You've seen it referred to. It's sort of like in the cloud, a way to work in teams to complete a project. And that's part of what we're trying to do in this class now. In the real world, you'll never work on something all by yourself. If you're working on a project, you'll be part of a team, or you'll get help from somebody, or there'll be a combination of efforts. And Git is the software way that we can, at best, manage that coordinated effort.
So what he says is right. So we're going to not only use RStudio projects kind of as your bedroom where you put all your stuff, we're going to use Git sort of like your chest of drawers where you put your socks in your sock drawer and your shoes under the table or wherever they go, so you have a place for everything. And I think of this as an issue of, instead of building let's go back to the building the house paradigm that Dr. J mentioned. Suppose you are going along and partway through the process, you decide you don't like the doors. You're going to put in new doors. So you go buy new doors and you put them in. Then later, you want to put back the old doors. But you lost the old doors, or you sold them or something. With Git, they're readily available. You can revert back to something you had done before without any questions asked. So it's managing this version idea that gives you the power to not have to redo work, not invent your own version control system by naming a file my first try .1 and my second try .2, etc., which we've seen people do. This is the modern way. It was actually invented by Linus Torvalds, who also is the author of Linux. He's also the author of Git. And it's a pretty interesting concept that we'll be teaching in the course so that you in your efforts won't have to redo work. You can find it as you go along and play the modern game, so to speak.
Our assignments in the courses will be based on using Git and using Teams. An interesting note is that the Git and GitHub is not applicable only to statistics in this course, but any type of software that you do where you work in teams. So, for example, if you have a group of folks who are maybe doing some research on a project associated with a science class or an English class or something else, then you can also use Git and GitHub to coordinate those efforts. And we will teach you how to do that.
Exactly. So, part of the first part of what we're going to do is teach you, shall we say, proper cleanliness and where your room is and how to keep track of your things. And past that point, you'll find once you get used to it, you're really going to like it. It just is a little bit of a learning curve to throw your leg over the Git saddle, so to speak. All right.
All right. We're looking forward to seeing you in Math 115, Math 116.
Yep. And hopefully you'll be at the top of your class when you go on to a four-year college. All right. See you down the road.
Thanks.
Okay.